Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining me this evening. I hope everyone's doing well. Let me know that you can hear me okay. Um, Chat something, say hi to me. This is your friend Carol. I'm glad to have you all here this afternoon or this evening. Hope everybody's had a great weekend. We are filming from the attic of Piedmont Trails. This is where all the records are stored, majority of them. Um, all the maps, all kinds of land surveys, records pertaining to family genealogy and early settlements, anything from 17th century, 18th century, into the 19th century. We most likely will have at least something on it. Um, Sounds good. Okay, great. Because I had to finagle my little microphone here for a second, so I wanted to make sure that everything was good. Thank you, Jay Webb, for letting me know that. Elaine Thompson says hello from Alabama. Hello, hello, Alabama. All right, you guys. Tonight is an open format. We are going to talk about you and your journey to the past. So, you guys, let me know how it's going with your genealogy research. Let me know what treasures you found. Let me know what's going on in your genealogy world. Are you running into lots of brick walls, maybe? Or are you running down rabbit holes that are just not producing any rabbits? Or tell me what's going on and let me know. I've also got a few surprises for you guys this evening. I am going to be sharing some 17th century surnames that is will be coming out on a podcast later on this week, but you guys get to hear it first. So I'm going to share about 25 surnames from the 17th century in Virginia. And I'm going to share with you some details about their lives, sources, and some of them are also included into the colonial indentured servants. I'm also going to name some ship names. So we're going to do that later. That's the one surprise. And then at the end of the live stream, I've got another surprise for you guys. All right. So you got to share with me your journey to the past. Let's see. Jeff says, looking forward to this evening. Oh, I am too. I am too. Thank you for joining me, Jeff. He says, your research on the Great Wagon Road is so helpful. I'm in Virginia's Shenandoah Valley. Well, then you're right in the heart of the Great Wagon Road, right there in the Shenandoah Valley. Yes. There's an unremarkable amount of information that we were able to retrieve just in that area. It's amazing. I can't wait for all of this information that we've been able to put together and put it all in a one final presentation. And I just can't wait to get that done. Um, I'm so looking forward to that day. I really am. The Great Wagon Road deserves our respect. It deserves to be identified for what it really was. And it was so many things. It meant so much to many people. It really did. It changed their lives. And in some cases, if it wasn't for the Great Wagon Road, we wouldn't be where we are. There's no telling. We may have still been living in Pennsylvania and grew up there, or our family may not have never made it to the southern colonies during that time. So it would have changed history if the Great Wagon Road didn't exist. All right, you guys, you going to get your thoughts together? You're going to share with me your journey? This is not about me tonight. I'm going to share the surprises, but it's all about you. It's all about you and what you have going on. Um, yeah, I've been really, really busy this week doing different things, answering a lot of emails. Our attic files are growing and we're getting a lot of requests for those. So I've been digging in deep with that. But I've also been uh, dabbling with another project, which I'm going to get to you on later. All right, you guys, you're being really, really quiet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get started on naming these surnames for you, okay? And then y'all be thinking, y'all get ready to share your journey with me. All right, we're going to start the timeline I kind of picked out for tonight. This podcast I've got coming out this week is going in detail from the time the original Virginia Company of London began until it dissolved its charter, which would have been around in 1624. So I picked out these names from dating to about 1624 to 1627. But the podcast is going to cover the whole entire area from 1607 way past 1624. It's going to go into the mid 17th century and beyond, because the podcast is going to cover a lot about the early settlements and how they changed. Um, and it's also going to name several ships that were involved in with immigration coming into Virginia, how the population had changed so much on the eastern seashore right there. And it's also includes a lot of sources. This podcast has been in the works now for probably about a month and a half, but the research that I've been doing in Virginia through that area is many years, and there's a lot of good sources that are out there now that you can use online, and they're free to use. And I want everybody to be able to have access to that, because it's not readily advertised. Now, a lot of people don't know about it. And it's not something, some of these things would not just come up just by Googling or typing in certain keywords. They're kind of hidden treasures on the internet, so to speak. So I'm anxious to get those shared too. All right. Let's see. Elaine, what does she say? She says, I am just getting into the Waxhaw region. Oh, specifically working on the, see if I say this right, Macquarie line. Did I say that correctly? Let me know. So you're in the Waxhaw region. That is very interesting, very good. I wish you great success out there. And Cassandra Wright says, hello from Indiana. Hello, Indiana. Tracing my 5 times great-grandfather back to Lincoln County, North Carolina. Oh, Lincoln County is another great area. Both areas, the Waxhaw region and the Lincoln County area, have a ton of records everywhere. Even upon the ground, if you go digging on the ground, you're going to find records of some type of artifact is going to appear. They're very fascinating historical areas. Well, I wish you great luck, Cassandra. I really do, especially in Lincoln County, North Carolina. All right, you keep those comments coming now and share your journeys. I'm going to share some surnames, okay? We're going to be in 1625 to 1627. Some of these will date to 1624. These have been accumulated by original records, and some of the details in here will give you a little glimpse into their lives and let you know kind of like what was going on, what was happening in 17th century Virginia. They are in alphabetical order. Let's see, April. Let me catch April here. She says, hi from Texas. Well, yes, Texas. Yes. I found your channel and website this weekend while looking up information about Stokes County. The right surname is my surname focus. Very good. Stokes County is another historical place. And she says, the right surname is my surname focus. Well, I wish you great success, April Carter. I really do. And Jeff continues, says, please talk about the time it took to travel the Great Wagon Road, if walking or with a pack horse. From Philadelphia to Augusta, Georgia, would it take weeks, months, or perhaps a couple of years? Well, there's a lot of things that go into that question. Let's see. Okay, if you're walking, it would definitely take you more than probably 30 days to walk the Great Wagon Road. From Philadelphia to Augusta, Georgia, you didn't just travel the Great Wagon Road. The Great Wagon Road officially ended in North Carolina. So you would have had to take another road from Salisbury, North Carolina, either the Kiowee Trail, the Catawba Trail, or the Trader's Path to get to Augusta, or Thick Penn's Trace. But it would have definitely taken, and it depended greatly, Jeff, on the weather. And road conditions were horrible. I was traveling out the other day, and I was thinking, wow, our roads are just in really bad shape here in North Carolina. You have potholes everywhere, and it seems like they're always trying to patch them up here and there. And then I think back, how thankful and blessed we really are, because our ancestors had a much more difficult time traveling the Great Wagon Road way back in the day. Okay, so Jeff says, what times of the year were most common to travel in 1803? Winter, spring, summer, or fall? It greatly depends on the destination, Jeff. In my opinion, this is my opinion only. And it also depends on the economics of the family, I think. If they greatly depended on crops as their main surplus of money to have supplies, then they would wait till the harvesting of their crops, I think, before they left. So that would be in the autumn or the fall. If they were traveling out west, then that would be they would need to leave in early spring, late spring, at the latest to get to their destination. But as far as the Great Wagon Road, what times of year were the most common in the I think in the mid 18th century till after the American Revolutionary War, it would have been the autumn. Elaine Thompson says, hoping to get to the Graves, Sims, Osborne, Austin lines, among others in Virginia. Yes. So I am listening closely. Oh, I don't know. I don't think. Oh, wait a minute. I think one of your names may be on there. We'll find out. We'll find out. I wish you great success, Elaine. I really do. And April Carter says, was Stokes County on the Great Wagon Road? Yes, ma'am. Not like what you might think or what may others may think, but it did travel along the eastern side of Stokes County. If you're familiar with Stokes County, North Carolina, and Walnut Cove in the Blues Creek area, it traveled in that area. Oh, that's great. All right, keep sharing your journey, you guys. All right, we're not going to name some names. Samuel Acton is our first name, Acton. He is mentioned in court dated June 1626. Okay. And the document states that he was a servant to Captain John Stone. So now you know that Captain John Stone is in the 17th century Virginia and Samuel Acton is in 17th century Virginia. Robert Adams. He's mentioned living in Martin's Hundred and was formerly a servant for Richard Smith. How many of you know of Richard Smith and his plantation? Okay. In 1625, Robert Adams, sent a letter complaining about the terrible living conditions at the plantation. During an attack by the Native Americans, the Indians in the area in 1623, Adams and his wife hid in the watchtower because William Harwood would not allow them into the house. This was also included within Adams' letter. By 1629, Robert Adams died by January, and his wife was ordered to settle her husband's estate. So Robert Adams not only gained his freedom, but he even purchased a servant from John Warham before his death in 1629. So he arrived in Virginia as a colonial indentured servant. He gained his freedom. He was able to own his own property, and then he was able to purchase his own servant. Okay, John Adis, Adis, was found guilty of having an improper relationship with Katharina Bukill, and that's Bukill, in 1626. He was ordered to be a servant for Thomas Ridiard, Ridiard, 1626. Let me stop here and I'm going to read. Jan says, I think about the determination that our ancestors had. Yes. Miller and related families or of Wilkes and Watauga counties, always looking for more information about them. And never stop looking, Jan. You never stop looking. It amazes me to this day. When I stop and think, after 40 years of research and my personal family tree, and I think I've got this all wrapped up. Like my great grandmother, for instance, I actually got to meet her and speak with her, and I remember those conversations. And she was one of my first ancestors that I really dug deep into, and I thought, okay, I know all the details, but you don't. I mean, just it wasn't too many days ago, a few weeks ago, when I found out even more information that I did not have. So it's an ongoing, it's constantly going. And if we just keep our eyes open, never keep them closed, never think that we think we've got it all wrapped up when we know everything, especially if you want to really, really get to know them. And you want to fill your family tree with much more than names and dates and where they live, but you want the details. So yeah, Jan, don't ever give up. You just keep on looking. And Wilkes and Watauga County, with all the surnames that you mentioned with Miller, yes, you're going to find a lot of information. You just keep digging. Keep digging. We may have something here on Miller. Let me know what line you got. Okay, Anthony Afton, Afton. He appeared in court January 1627 to answer questions about the death of Thomas Savage. Thomas Savage was an indentured servant and he belonged to William Gayney, Gayney. Now, what happened was Afton took Savage with him to help retrieve his canoe, but Savage drowned in the process of trying to save the canoe. Well, the court stated that Anthony Afton could have helped the man, but instead just stood on the bank and watched him drown. So, what kind of punishment do you think Afton suffered for this? Anthony Afton was ordered to pay the total worth of servant Thomas Savage to William Gayney, and that was it. That was the punishment that was required of him. Amazing. It's amazing. Okay, next one is Thomas Bagnall, Bagnall. He was a noted resident in Jamestown during 1625. 1625. Alice Bailey, one of the few females that I have on my list. Alice Bailey testified in court September 11th, 1626. She accused Joan Wright, Wright, of witchcraft. Okay? Bailey asked Wright if her husband would die before her. And Joan Wright refused to answer the question directly, but she told Bailey that she knew what the answer was. So, with that conversation, Alice Bailey testified in court that Joan Wright was acting and practicing witchcraft. Okay, April Carter says, definitely, Jean. Oh, yes. Y'all talk amongst yourselves too and encourage one another. Don't stop. And you may be able to have some type of information or tidbit or a clue that can help each other out. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Okay, next one is Anne and Nicholas Bailey. This is another surname for Bailey. Both Anne and Nicholas arrived in Virginia in 1621 on the Marmaduke. They were married in 1624, and they lived at Weston Shirley 100. How many of you can point Weston Shirley on the map on where it was located? The couple moved in 1625 to Flower Dew 100. I think it's pretty neat that they both arrived on the same ship. They later married about 3 years later, and then they were living in two different areas before their deaths. There's a lot more about Anne and Nicholas Bailey, too. I'll throw that hint in there. Okay, Samuel Bennett is our next one. Bennett. He is aged approximately 40 years old in 1625, and he's living in Elizabeth City. And he was servants of William Tyler. Okay. Bennett was given 50 acres in the Indian Thicket area during the year 1633. So before his death, Samuel Bennett owned land in Elizabeth City. I believe Bennett arrived with his wife on the Providence ship in 1622. If this is true, he was a servant for 11 years, okay, before he gained his freedom. And this is kind of commonplace during this time frame. A lot of people have said, well, most of the colonial indentured servants, they either served 4 or 7 years. But the further you go back, you'll see that the majority of them, especially during this time frame we're in right now, they started with 11 years. 11 years. And what county was Joan Wright in? Oh, betraying you too. This was in on Jamestown Island for Miss Joan Wright. Yep, Miss Joan Wright and Ann Bailey. Okay, so Walter Blake. Walter Blake sailed the Atlantic on the ship Swan, in 1624. Blake was one of Sir George Yeardley's men, and he was living at Flowerdew Hundred. Blake was also living at Hog Island in 1625, and he died sometime before 1627. The records cease from that point on. Did I answer your question, April? Let me know if I didn't. She says thank you. Okay. All right. Joseph Bull arrived on the ship Abigail. Abigail. So I've already named several ships here for you guys. Okay. Marmaduke, Providence, Abigail. Okay. In 1622, Joseph Bull. And in 1625, he was living by himself. He was living alone in his own home. Okay. At Jordan's Journey. He was noted as living alone. Bull was noted to have in his possession different types of weapons. In other words, I take that like it was unique weapons. So it makes me wonder, what did Joseph Bull have? Why was his weapons considered unique in 1625? Wonder what he had. It makes me want to really look into Joseph Bull and see. And why was he living alone? I'll question that too. Okay, next one is Thomas Farmer. Thomas Farmer was an ancient planter. He arrived in Virginia on the trial in 1616. Farmer was living in Bermuda Hundred by 1625, and his age given at that time was 30 years. He served as Burgess in the March 1630 session, and that would make Farmer would have been born either 1595 or slash 1596. And he arrived in Virginia at the age of 21 in 1616. Okay. I want to share some sources with you guys too. So let me do that real quick. If you really want to get into this time period along the James River, along the York River, and along Chesapeake Bay in Virginia, then I urge you to look at some of these sources that I have used tonight with some of the names here. First one is a book. It's called An Account of the Ancient Planters, 1624. In Colonial Records of Virginia. It was published in Richmond in 1871. It's a very, very good book. Also, I used a lot of of course, the early court records and stuff. And the Virginia Company of London, I used their records as well. The Complete Book of Immigrants from 1607 to 1660, written by Peter Coldman in 1987. If you've not heard of Peter Coldman, Coldman, look him up. If you're wanting to know more about your ancestors from the 18th century and 17th century, especially in Virginia or along the eastern coast, really, all the colonies, he's written several books, and they are excellent. I have not found one that I don't like yet. And that is Peter Coldman. And the name of this particular book that I was recommending and used as a reference is The Complete Book of Immigrants, 1607 to 1660. Next source is Voyages from Holland to America, 1632 to 1644, written by David DeVries, and that is Devries, published by Henry Murphy in New York. This book was published in 1853. Virginia Colonial Abstracts. This consisted of 3 volumes. It's by Beverly Fleet, and it was published in 1988. I also used tracts and other papers relating to the origin, settlement, and progress of the colonies in North America. This is a must-have. It's a 4-volume set. It was published in 1836, but a newer version was edited and published. It was edited and compiled by Peter Smith and published in 1963. Very good books. House of Lords Record Office papers, 1625 to 1641. These can be found in the National Archives in England. Photocopies are available in Williamsburg, Virginia. Okay. So overall, I mentioned about 25 surnames, several ship names, and several indentured servants. The podcast coming out this week will contain much, much more on these early families and their history and the documentation to support that our findings of what we found. Another thing about notes about Virginia's early settlements, there are approximately 78 early settlements dating to the 17th century in Virginia. And I probably missed some. It may be close to 80 or over, but I think around 78. And, if this is all along the James River, York River, Chesapeake Bay area, when you're studying this period, I suggest, it's my opinion, that you look deeper into these settlements and learn their origin dates, because some of them vary. Learn their location, where they were then compared to where they would be now, and learn how they transformed over time from the 17th century through the 18th century and then moving forward. Cassandra says, my 5 times great grand maternal side name is Walker, buried in Capturana, Missouri. Ooh. Revolutionary War tombstone read, Revolutionary War vet, North Carolina. He lived on east of the South Fork of Catawba Settlement, 1800. There was a lot of families that lived in North Carolina, Cassandra, that after the American Revolutionary War, they left. Yeah, a lot of people say, well, I didn't realize my ancestor lived in North Carolina for a while, but it seemed like a lot of people, families did travel to the Carolinas, North and South Carolina, and stayed for a little while. And then a lot of families left before the American Revolutionary War and went elsewhere to Tennessee, Kentucky, or they went further south, Georgia. And then after the American Revolutionary War, a lot of them really headed west. They really did. So thank you for sharing that. It's fascinating um, that that you were able to trace that, and that that he lived in on the South Fork of the Catawba settlement, and so it had been near the Catawba River, and then he traveled west. That's amazing. Okay. Um, Jamestown Island Jamestown Island is definitely going to be the first one on your list to look into. It's originally named James City, 1607. That's known as Jamestown. And the population also fluctuates through the early years. And you can find a lot of material on the ancient planners and their patents. So the original ones that arrived, you can find a lot of information about them. It's easily available. Others are early settlements are called the Glass House, Governor's Land, the Company Land, Necco Land, Archer's Hope, Martin's Hundred, Burroughs Hill, Pace's Pains, Captain Roger Smith's Plantation, the Treasurer's Plantation, High Crowder's Plantation, William Ewan's Plantation, Hog Island, and Elizabeth City, and many, many more. If you get a chance to study the Farrer Papers, which are located at the University of Cambridge in England, they are a great source of information about the Virginia Company of London and their records. To learn more about this, I urge you to visit Virginia Company Archives, and I will post a link in the comments after the live stream tonight. Now, if you visit this website, it will give you an introduction to what is in these papers. It's a lot of information. I think it's 22 to 2,500 documents. It mentions a lot of families, every single family that was traveled, that went associated with the Virginia Company. But you're going to have to, in order to access this information online, you will have to log in. It requires a login form, password, yada yada, all of that. So it does offer a free trial. So you need to read all the instructions. Have questions about any of that, then you will need to contact Adam Matthew Digital Ltd, because that's the company that has digitized all of these records and made them available online. So let me repeat that. In order to access the documents, you will need a login. Follow the instructions. If you have questions, contact Adam Matthew Digital Ltd for any questions or concerns about logging in. If you're with a university, then you may have access to it already, but if not, then you will need to follow the instructions. If you search online, you will also find several books about Nicholas Sparrow and his family and his personal correspondence, all of his letters and his papers. The Library of Congress also offers Sarah Kingsbury, her 5-volume set, and it covers material from 1619 to the charter's end date of 1624 for the Virginia Company. It includes court records, ships arriving, all activity through all of these early settlements pertaining to Virginia Company of London. It's a 5-volume set. They are available online through the Library of Congress. They are searchable. And what the Library of Congress does is it's a digitized image of each and every page of this 5-volume set. And you can find a lot of information on it. A whole lot of information. Okay. So, before I share my last surprise with you guys, share with me some more about your adventures. Has anybody ran into issues with your family tree? Has anybody ran into family stories that you always thought were true, and then all of a sudden you found out the information and it proved the story to be false? I've done that many times. Have you found additional family members where you thought you had all of the children for one couple, and then all of a sudden, like one or two more all of a sudden appear, and you're able to prove it, and they had more. They ended up that couple had more children than what you originally thought. Any surprises? Treasures? Okay. All right. I don't know if you guys can see these books over here. But my last surprise is going to probably really, really surprise you guys. Every now and then, when you get through, researching genealogy can be time consuming. It can be stressful. It can be fun, fascinating, adventurous, but it can also sometimes be depressing. And so over the past several months, with everything that what we've been going through here at Piedmont Trails, I decided to take a little side trip. And every now and then, I love researching other families, especially through North Carolina. I have a ton of data of family lineages. That's what is part of the attic files. Those are years of researching other families that they're not even related to me, but I love doing it. And so I thought I would take a gamble and see if I could trace the genealogy of a very famous person that has a lot of questions behind them. And I thought, well, I want to get out of the 18th century for a few weeks or whatever, and 17th century, and maybe just move forward in the future a little bit, and maybe go to a different area. So the thought just hit my head. I've always been fascinated with Billy the Kid and why people couldn't actually prove his family lineage, and why it was such a problem in tracing his steps back and his family steps back. So the past couple of weeks, I've been working on the genealogy of Billy the Kid, alias William H. Bonney, and also finding out more about his life. So that's what these books are. I had these, a couple of them, and one I just recently purchased that goes into detail about all the letters that he had written while he was alive. And so now I'm going to be coming out with a short little article of my opinion of Billy the Kid and his family history. So that's the other big surprise. You guys are probably like, oh my goodness, she's finally went crazy on us. Okay, Jay Webb says, before I started researching, I thought my father's family was Irish, but only his maternal grandmother is Irish. That is very interesting. You know, where families originated from, whether it be Ireland or Switzerland or England, they all had certain traditions that they brought with them. And one of the fascinating things that I have found through the years is the naming patterns, especially through the 17th and 18th century. The naming patterns. You can, especially with Germans too, they all named their children according to tradition. It's amazing to me. And a lot of times it often helps you in identifying who was the oldest child, who was the youngest, who was the, or so forth, and how they were born. But that is amazing. Thank you, Jay Webb, for sharing that. He says, cool about Billy the Kid. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that kind of takes you, so don't, here's my thing. If you get frustrated with your own family, then pick something random of what else, something else that you're interested in, and it could be anything. Maybe a local community. Maybe you'd be interested in how a certain community came into existence, and just study that and research it. But get your mind off of what is stressing you out for right now, and just kind of, you're not walking away from it, but just put it on hold for a little bit and turn your interest to something else that fascinates you. And so I thought it was pretty interesting. I came across a census in New York where it actually shows the William H. Bonney's or Henry McCarty's parents. It shows him. The census dated in 1860. And so, I was able to find that with relatively no problem at all. And so I started really digging in deeper into it. And, there are a lot of spots in his life that are just, you just have no idea. But I'm sure if I was out in Arizona or New Mexico and in that area, and I went straight to the sources, then I could probably find out a whole lot more information, which I might do one day. That would be really cool. And Elaine says, I would love to break down some brick walls. Well, then do it. She says, I want to hear more about Billy. Well, what got me started with that was that the Brushy Bill Roberts guy who came out in 1949 or 1948 and said that he was the real Billy the Kid. And that's what got me started years ago, long time ago. And I was really into looking into him and finding out more about him. But my personal opinion is that Henry McCarty, alias William H. Bonney, alias Billy the Kid, died on July 14th of 1881. And yeah, I even dug in deeper into, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of, but Stephen Cedarwall and his investigation. He actually opened up a verified legal case into the death of Billy the Kid in Lincoln County. And he was a sheriff there, and he opened it up, and he was able to interview descendants of Pete Maxwell and his family, and actually view some artifacts of the washstand that was in Pete Maxwell's room of the night of the shooting, to gain more details about what the events that happened and what led up to it that night. And he also got DNA samples from the actual carpenter's bench of where Billy the Kid's body was laid after he was shot. So, the evidence just kind of pretty much proves that, without a doubt that Billy the Kid died that night. But what I wanted to know is I wanted to know his family history, because there was a lot of speculation saying that he was born in Texas or he was born, elsewhere, born or in New York, and some people had even said Indiana. But I believe wholeheartedly that he was born in New York. Absolutely, absolutely do. And I believe his mother was born in, well, not born in New York, but she was pretty much raised as a child in New York. And I believe that McCarty was living in New Jersey. And they ended up marrying him. Okay, so Tennessee man. Let's see. He says, my fifth great was born in Pennsylvania after my sixth great came to Pennsylvania from Ireland. They were Scots-Irish. They moved to North Carolina in 1754 and settled near the Guilford Courthouse. Fifth great had two younger brothers. And he goes on to say all three of them and other family moved to Tennessee in 1799, the Watauga area. Then all three were over mountain men. After the Revolutionary War, they moved to Kentucky. Wow, that is amazing. See, that is just, and now you can actually pinpoint the actual dates, people that they may have met along their trips, where they stopped. Um, that's amazing, Tennessee man. Very congratulations to you. An excellent job on that. Thank you for sharing that with us. That is really great. So you've got their timeline already down from 1754. You know they left from Pennsylvania. So in 1754, they're in North Carolina. They're near a historic site near the Guilford Courthouse where one of the biggest battles of the American Revolutionary War took place. And now in 1779, you've got them in Tennessee and later Kentucky. That's amazing. Good job. Good job. And Scotty Fritz says, mine were in Rowan County. Yes, y'all share. Last name was Scott. Surname Scott. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Okay. So I am going to, let's see, what time is it? Oh, we're going to wrap this up. Let's get it wrapped up tonight, you guys. Our next live stream will be July 30th at 7:30 p.m. It's on a Sunday. And our topic for the next live stream is going to be Colonial Georgia. Colonial Georgia. It's going to be all about Georgia, all the roads, early settlements, the families coming in, the first families who arrived there, the Native Americans there, all the traders, the trading paths, the waterway routes. It's going to be everything about colonial Georgia. Okay? Everything. We're going to start with the American Revolutionary War veterans that are buried in Georgia, and then I'm going to work my way back to 1732. So it's going to be all about Georgia on the next live stream. So tell your friends, bring people who know about Georgia, because we need more information. We never have enough. So if you know someone who is familiar with early Georgia's history and the early roads and the surnames of families that were living there, bring them. Tell them to come join us. We would love to have them. Okay, so I'm going to ask everyone this evening to like and subscribe to the channel tonight. I'm also going to ask everyone to visit our website at PiedmontTrails.com. And I want you to subscribe to it so you can stay up to date with all the latest editions and new information. If you are on the Attic Files Family Pages list, okay, we've been comprising a list of requests. If you're on that list, thank you for requesting information from our files. We've had almost 1,000 requests from so far, and it's been amazing. That was one of the reasons why I had to take a little break and go visit with Billy the kid. But anyway, we've had nearly 1,000 requests from our Attic Files, and that is great. It's fantastic. We love it. We want to help everyone. We want to share everything that we've got here with all of you. We are answering these in numerical order. In other words, we're answering them in the order that they're received. Okay? And I just added a person on tonight just right before I came online. So thank you so much for requesting the information. We are still adding surnames to the Attic Files. So keep looking on our library page and you can see these names being added. I have got 6 more to add tonight before I go to something else, before I can finish up for the day. So I'll be adding those 6 tonight. But we're constantly adding more and more to the Attic Files, okay? We're trying to get all of our names of what we have here listed on the library. It is taking a while. Sorry about that, but we're doing the best we can. If you are also waiting on the data from the Colonial Indentured Servants Project, it will most likely be the end of summer before this is completely done. And there's a reason why. It's because we've had to accommodate our server space and address other storage issues on the website. This is a ton of information that we're trying to get on the website. So bear with us. We're working through those storage issues now, and we want everything to be able to be clickable, linkable, connect to everything. So we're working on it. It'll probably be towards the end of the summer. Now, some of this will be published in stages. So if you subscribe to the website, you'll be kept up on all the updates on what's being released. So, but for the whole thing to be released, it's probably going to be around the end of summer now to get all that done. Okay, I'm sorry for the delay. I am. Okay, if you are asking, if you're wondering about the map for the Great Wagon Road project, I got a note about that tonight too. We spent the majority of our time during the past 2 months coordinating and contacting the necessary personnel to apply for the National Historic status. That's required a lot of letters, a lot of different people to contact, different rules that you got to follow. We've been dealing with all of that. So regarding the online map for the project, we resumed work on it this past week. And it would be nice if I could get that map up by the 4th of July. That's my goal right now. So if you've been looking for the Great Wagon Road map from our project, we're hoping to get it online on our website by the 4th of July. Okay. April says, oh, wait a minute, I may have skipped one. Cassandra says, an excellent resource recommended by our Library of Congress, How to Find Your Family History in United States Church Records. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Authors Sonny Jane Morton and Harold and Henderson. Thank you, Cassandra, for sharing that. Really, thank you. I stressed to everyone how important church records are. It's so important. April says, this time it's been so neat to learn here and share together. Thank you for doing this. Thank you. We couldn't have done it without you, April, or Cassandra and Scotty and Tennessee Man and Elaine, all of you. We couldn't have done it without all of you. Thank you. Elaine says, great session. Thank you. Thank you, Elaine. And April says, Carol, you're so awesome. Oh, I'll be sure to explore more around the website and the attic files. April Carter, you're awesome. Thank you for joining us. All right, I'm going to wish everybody a happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day coming up. I hope everybody stays safe and celebrates our independence for freedom, and share all of your ancestors that served during the American Revolutionary War. Happy 4th, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Thank you for sharing your journey with me. And I hope each of you enjoy your journey to the past this week. And until next time, God bless.